Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of the Mental Toughness and Body Show. On this show today, I'm really excited about it because we're going to talk about unlocking the secrets to holistic health. Now, most people go through each day, I find, focusing on just filling their tummies without real thought to the ingredients that they're putting in, what they're eating, what they're doing. They don't think about their long-term health. But our guest today is going to show us the roadmap to success in taking our health and wellness to that next level. Now, obviously, on this podcast, we've interviewed people from all walks of life. We've got our A-list celebrities, we've got our Olympic gold medalists, we've got our billion-dollar empire builders. But today, we have clinical nutritionist Anthony Hartcher. How are you going, Anthony?
Excellent. How are you doing, Rob?
Yeah, I'm doing really well, thanks. I didn't ask you, you based in Sydney? Is that where
Yeah,
you are?
Sydney
Yeah,
based,
right.
eastern suburbs, near the beaches, near Coogee Beach.
Right. Okay. Nice. I have no idea where that is, but okay. It's near water. Um, yeah. So I wanted to perhaps start out, Anthony. Tell us a little bit about you and why nutrition, and I guess tell us a little bit about what clinical nutritionists do.
Absolutely. So thanks for the question, Rob. And it started back when I was a kid. So as a kid, I remember around 5, 6 years old, or even before that, but 5 and 6 was really distinct memories of being really sick, having glue ears, constant snot and constant
Yeah.
wax coming out of my ears, earaches,
All right.
couldn't sleep at night, and I was seeing doctors and specialists and having operations. And so my perception at that age was that I was a sick kid, but I just wanted to be just like every other kid running around with freedom and really
Yeah.
enjoying themselves, kicking footies and without the pain and without the struggle to sleep at night. And so that really kick-started my journey because of that perception that I wasn't sick. I really then sought health. I was seeking health at a very early age. I was reading dietary books. I remember picking up Wayne Pearce, who was a famous rugby league player at the time, very healthy guy compared to all the other rugby league players. And he
Mm.
wrote a book on nutrition. And so I digested his book and got some tips on nutrition. And then I picked up Arnold Schwarzenegger's book, which you've probably
Yeah.
had on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Oh, well, I haven't had Arnold on the show. No.
I'll
But I've
put
got
him on
his
the
book.
put him on the list. I don't know where he fits. He's a celebrity. He's a billionaire, probably. He probably fits.
Yeah, I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't think he's a billionaire, but I was supposed to meet him in April 2020. Remember
Uh,
what happened on the 23rd of
yes.
March in
Yes.
2020 here? We got locked
Yeah.
down for almost a year on and
Yeah.
off. But yeah, anyway. So you kind of jumped over it, but what was wrong with you as a kid? Like
It
that's obviously
just
sparked your passion, but what was going on for you?
it was just constant ENT, which is ear, nose, throat infections.
Mm.
So I had a weakened immune system. Not quite sure why. Maybe really don't know why, but
You
I
kind of
was
just grew out of it.
yeah, after the operations, grew out of it and just really buckled down, like put down the hatches and went after health. I chased health really hard.
So
And
what age do you reckon you were when like you mentioned about the books and stuff? I'm sure when you were 5 or 6, you didn't go out and get Arnold's book. But what sort of age do you remember that you said, yeah, do you know what? I need to do something, learn about this.
I remember year 3, so I was 9 years old. Was
Well,
reading the Wayne Pearce dietary book, and I was dieting at 9, which probably isn't uncommon today. Certainly, people start dieting, but it was very uncommon during my generation. I'm approaching 50 now, so yeah, during that time, dieting was pretty much everyone was just eating what they wanted, right?
yeah.
It was pretty. But today, a lot people are generally a lot more health conscious. So that really drove my focus, and I was very passionate about what I put in my mouth, what I did, how I slept. Very exercised every day. I still do now, and so it drove me to really seek health, and I'm still seeking health today. So it's amazing how that void or that perceived void as a little kid has driven my motivation,
Yeah.
even so today.
So what would you say? Because people have heard of, nutritionists, dietitians, and so forth, but like you specifically say you're a clinical nutritionist. is there a difference there? I imagine it's the type of clients that you work with, as opposed to the necessarily the qualification, but just is it you're just working with like a sicker type of client, perhaps?
No, clinician, like we're trained to actually do clinical examinations. So we do have formal training around pathophysiology, around clinical examinations, around using various equipment as a clinician. So we're not trained in diagnostics, but
Right.
we're trained in certainly getting, testing for the vital signs, understanding the pathophysiology, which is the course of disease and how it manifests and what organs and systems are affected. So
Okay.
we have a very yeah, degree qualified. So it's not something you just do a 6 week course in nutrition and you're
Yeah.
some nutritional guru. It's a full-on degree, and we as part of that we do training in a clinic setting under supervision.
So is most of the work you're doing, you're working with the like the pointy end of serious potential health issues, or diagnosing serious, well,
Well,
you're not diagnosing,
no.
but you're treating. Somebody's got X and you're there to help them treat
So
X. So you've got to understand X, what's going on,
yes.
but you're not diagnosing it.
Correct. So typically they come to me with a diagnosis. They've been around the medical system, seen the specialist, got a diagnosis.
Yeah.
They've tried medicine, but medicine's just not helping, not getting them to where they want to be. They don't want to
Yeah.
be, these people don't want to be dependent on drugs. They want to cure themselves. And so, as you know, with medicine, it's all about treating symptoms, and it's just symptom management.
Yeah.
It doesn't get down to the
It's not
root
a
cause.
solution.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
correct.
So what would be say the most prevalent things that you're seeing at the moment?
Mental health, definitely mental health, anxiety, depression, burnout, a lot of
Yeah.
burnouts. Yeah. So, particularly corporates,
Mm.
they're really struggling.
How long have you been doing this?
So 8 years now. So 2016, I
How
started.
much do you think that's changed over the 8 years? Obviously, we've had COVID. No, you guys did it easy up in Sydney compared to us, but how much has that changed, you think, in what you started to see when you first started to now?
When I first started, it was predominantly weight loss.
Yeah.
And now I'm seeing people, not that they're not concerned about their weight, it's more their mental health. It's really having
Okay.
an impact on their finances, their relationships. And so it's having a significant, like, so when you carry a bit of weight, it doesn't really affect your finances. It doesn't really have an impact. It can have an impact on
Not
your
straight
relationship,
away.
not
Yeah.
straight away, but certainly mental health can have that profound impact
Yeah.
where you lose a relationship, you're struggling with your finances because you can't work, you
Yeah.
can't get out of bed. Yeah. So
It's really interesting. So I've been like myself, been on my own journey for 36 years now, and full time in this business for 15 years. And I would agree with what you just said. My very first clients, I never thought of setting myself up this way. It's just the way that the clients that were coming to me, and it was all weight loss. So I used to call myself a weight loss coach. I don't do that now, and I'll tell you why in a second. But um, everybody that was coming through the door, it's like, I want to lose weight. I want to lose weight. I want to lose weight. Now, if you think about how much has changed in 15 years, I mean, gosh, I mean, it's a completely different world. When I first started, you could not take a photo on your phone. It was 22 cents a text, and you could only send 140 characters. Like it was so different, right? Facebook didn't exist really. To now, since COVID, everybody still has the same issues in terms of the weight loss, but it's probably the second, third, or they don't even mention it. They're focusing on health. I want to be healthier. I want to have more energy to run around with my kids. I want to, I don't feel good about my health. COVID's made me think about being healthier. Like the average age of my clients is 41, and they've got relatives that are perhaps unwell. Their parents are unwell. Somebody's just had a pacemaker. Somebody's just had a heart attack last week. I got two clients exactly like that right now, and it just makes people think differently about their health, and then that's gone on to Personally, I think the biggest health concern we have globally is mental health, and it's only going to get worse. It's not getting better.
Yeah, and who the World Health Organization actually supports that in terms of what they're seeing statistically. So it's a major concern worldwide. There's no doubt
It
about it.
it is. It is. It's very concerning, isn't it? So at the start of this, and I know this is a big focus of yours and me too in what I do, the words holistic health, people throw around terms and so forth. What does it mean to you?
So it's not just thinking health is one thing. So it's health's a sum of many things. And so for me, it's not just about like focusing on nutrition. It's not all about nutrition. It's not all about exercise.
Yeah.
It's not just sleep. It's not just relationships.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, it's the whole, which is, you know, the sum of the parts. And that's where I've really noticed a significant gain or improvement in my health and well-being is when I'm doing the many. I'm focused on,
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely. It's
yeah,
not one
yeah.
thing.
No, no.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Really well said. I think the biggest change that I've noticed in the way that I coach, um, when I first started, I'm like, you're going to do this, and I'm going to push people hard, and if they don't do the work and they don't follow the meal plan, they don't do all that work, it's like you're out. Like you're just gone. Now it's I'm very much more empathetic to what people are going through. I realize you probably don't know this, and I don't want to just land it on you right now, but I lost my daughter to anorexia nervosa just over 12 months ago, and it's made me very like 2 year fight to help her, and I work in this space, and I failed to save her, but she taught me a lot about empathy, and there are so many different parts to what caused her illness and what why she didn't make it. But it makes me realize now when people come in to see me that I can tell pretty quickly that their mental health is poor. Yes, their physical health and that kind of stuff is poor as well. But now I realize that, do you know what? If somebody just comes to see me once or twice a week, and I know because everything's so messed up for them that those 2 sessions are probably the highlight of their week. I'm not blowing my own trumpet, but just because it's probably the most supportive environment that they're in. I know that they're going to get the endorphin release, even if they go and get, fast food or whatever later. I know that what I'm working with them in those moments is the highlight for them, and I'm contributing to either keeping them alive or making their mental health better in those moments. Whereas back to the start, I would have said, no, I can't work with you, you're not committed. But I think the world has changed a lot, and where I do a lot of my work now is around not just the training, but it's around the food and the mental, like this show, the mental toughness, working on how do we help improve someone's mindset to help them grow. So um, it's the dynamics have changed a lot in how we work with our clients, and I think we're only going to see more and more of it.
Absolutely. I see it with my corporate clients. They're really interested in mental health, and predominantly that's the space I'm helping them with is mental health. So
Mm.
it is just they notice that their employees are struggling and they're wanting to do more for them. And so they're putting on, various understandings and awarenesses around what is anxiety, what is
Mm.
depression, how
Mm.
to look out for it, how to help someone with depression, how to help someone with suicidal ideology, and how to talk to them and all those sort of things. And so it's certainly well spoken. I mean, I must say it's getting well addressed. It's just whether um, yes, I mean, I think part of it is that they hear the same information over and over again, and it doesn't stick for everyone. And they need to hear it either in a different way or from a different person in order for it to, take, as you know, with coaching, for example, like someone might have told them it prior, it could have been their husband, their
Yeah,
husband or
their
wife
partner.
or partner,
Yeah.
and then they talk to you
And they
and
say,
you
oh,
say it.
yeah, I've never
Yeah.
heard it that way before. They don't language it that way, but it's like, yeah, now I'm going to change. And the
Yeah.
partners, they're
Yeah.
like, I've been telling you that for 15
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. I want to talk about, because we are fastly turning into the overweight and obesity capital of the world. We're not that far behind the US. I think we're almost at 70% of our population being overweight or obese. What do you think is the main reason for that?
If you had asked me this, I think 12 or 18 months ago, I would have given you an entirely different answer.
Mm,
And back then, it would have certainly been calories. And,
yeah,
just we're consuming too much and not burning enough. So the
yeah,
typical mantra. But
yeah,
since I was introduced to the work of Dr. Jack Kruse and his work around light and circadian rhythm, I now totally believe it's a light story. It's we're spending too much time indoors under artificial narrow band blue
yeah,
light, which is driving insulin resistance. And as you know, insulin resistance is behind leptin resistance, and it's behind weight gain ultimately. So you think about our lifestyles, we work indoors. Typically, the typical office job is indoors
yeah,
under artificial lighting, narrow band light. We rarely get outside, particularly in the winter. You'd probably be then commuting home in the dark. You get
yeah.
home, you're putting artificial light in.
To
And
sit
so,
down and stay
yeah,
in the same environment.
correct, correct. And so the body's dysregulated.
Mm,
The systems are doing the wrong thing at the wrong time because it's so out of sync with our natural environment. And so it's this decoupling effect from
mm,
our natural environment that I believe is behind why people eat excessive amounts of food and the types of
mm,
food they eat. So as you know, when we have insulin resistance, we're constantly hungry,
mm.
yet we're consuming food, but we've got no energy. And so we consume more food. And it's just
Yeah,
this
yeah. And
cycle.
we're consuming more and more low nutritional value food too.
Correct.
Yeah. I'm
Correct.
interested in your thought. I realize that all of these things are connected. I like to keep things really simple. I don't worry about the science so much. I just say, I know, I learn what works. I reckon the whole globally, the problem would be solved if people ate the recommended daily intake of vegetables. But that's tied into what you said and why people are going for less the faster meals, the highly fat, sodium, sugar, less nutritionally dense meals, no plant-based food in there. I mean, it's not one simple thing. I just like to keep it simple and say, just eat more veggies and you'll have more fiber, you'll be fuller for longer, your metabolic rate will improve, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I haven't heard that one before about light. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah. And we don't do it. Like, we spend so little time outside, outdoors. We've been told that the sunlight's dangerous for us. Keep out of the
Yeah,
sun,
that's
keep out of the
right.
sun.
And so now we're filling that up with just a vitamin D
Yeah.
capsule.
And it's not the same. And the at the end of the day, all our internal organs have a clock, and that clock needs to be synced to the outside in order to do so that organ or that system does the right thing at the right time of the day to best support the person, the individual.
Mm,
And part of it is like you look at, we certainly know where our immune defenses are well down. So when we exposed to excessive amounts of artificial light, we're not getting. So we actually start producing melatonin upon sunrise if we're getting outdoors.
yeah,
And you
right.
think about, no one's spending time outdoors.
Yeah.
Melatonin is one of the most powerful antioxidants in the body. And so they get to nighttime, they can't sleep, they're constantly looking at devices, they sleep poorly. That's when our immune system's most active. And so we're chronically, run down, getting viruses, getting sick, and not, we're not doing the basics. And as you said, you like
Yeah.
to keep things simple. We're really not just doing the basics, which is how we evolved and what makes us,
Mm.
in terms of optimal health, is when we're coupled with nature.
What's your recommendation in terms of people being outdoors?
seeing sunrise. So our, in order to sync our clocks, we need to sync our clocks. The best way to sync our clocks, and this is the best way to get over jet lag too, particularly when we're moving time zones, is see morning light. That morning light syncs our internal body clocks, and it starts the day. It really, because and this is where mental health really starts. So the
Yep.
production of dopamine and serotonin and endorphins all start with the seeing morning light. So getting that
Yep.
morning light, and then getting 5 minutes per hour all throughout the day. If you can't do 5 minutes every hour, it's 10 minutes every 2 hours or 15 minutes every 4 hours. And so you don't need huge amounts of light exposure, but we do need to step outside and get the sun. And we don't want to have sunglasses on. We need to see it through the retina. We need unfiltered. We don't want, like, so just looking at the sun inside is no good. We
Mm.
actually need the full spectrum sunlight, unfiltered. And so even the most whitest skins can handle 5 minutes in an hour, and particularly in the winter months when UV index is really
Sun's
low.
high. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's really great for your mental health as well. I mean, I get out in ideally, if I don't have like a 5 a.m. client or something, I'll get out first thing before sunrise, like I did this morning, and get out for a walk and just enjoy that, and how it helps me set up the day for success as well. So it's like there is so many different benefits in doing it, which lead to improved, outcomes overall for you. But yeah, I can see why the light aspect is so important as well. Yeah, it's interesting. I want to talk to you about the quality of our food now, and genetically modified food and that kind of stuff. And I know, a carrot that I used to pull out of my veggie garden at my parents' place in the 1970s is nothing like it is today. What's your perspective on the quality of food that we have these days?
Yeah, like our soils are over farmed, and so the nourishment, the minerals aren't in the soils today. So we have depleted soils because of over farming and not sustainable farming practices. So
Mm.
that's a big factor. And obviously, you mentioned the GMO, the genetically modified, is also affecting us. The food is not as it was once, and
What's your thoughts on the labeling of that? So I had a bit of a look into it, or maybe it was a year or two ago, and I mean, I'm old enough to remember when they started talking about genetically modified food, and there was a huge uproar, and then it just disappeared. And if you look at what the requirements are, it's like you don't have to splash on the front, "Hey, this is genetically modified. Beware, beware." They've just got to include some numbers or something somewhere on the packaging, and it's normally in really micro print somewhere to say that this may contain products that have been GMO'd or something. So I don't know what the rules are around it, but it just seems that we do not have a lot of regular. Well, um, at some point, nutritional information didn't have to go on the back of products, right? And now it does. And I feel that the GMO stuff is the same. It's just like no one's kicking up a fuss about it, so let's just get away with it.
absolutely. And so they'll do the bare minimum to get away with the regulations. So they'll put it in tiny print where people can't see it, where they don't look, and
Yeah,
or they'll put a code that they'll code it like a lot of food
yeah,
additives are
yeah.
coded, so people don't understand how the number system works, and they don't know what they're actually
That's right.
consuming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I read also, let's say that the cow is not genetically modified, but it's eating genetically modified food. You don't have to say that. Now, okay, isn't that going to have some impact
Mm,
on genetically
mm,
modifying the cow? Yeah,
mm,
potentially, but they
mm,
don't have to display that. I may not have that right, but it's something like that. Even though it may be included in the chain, but it's so far down the chain, you don't have to worry about that.
mm.
Don't worry, because the end result is not genetically modified. So really, really, Steve Wozniak, co-founder of Apple, he talks about sometimes he thinks we could just get to eating colored clay because, do we really know what it is that we're eating anymore? And certainly the way some people eat, no, they would have no idea about what it is that they're
Uh,
eating, right?
Particularly if you're eating the ultra processed fast foods, you got no idea what's in there. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
I know a passion of yours, and it's kind of topical over the last couple of years, is gut health. Talk to us a little bit about that, what you see, and why why people are so messed up. I guess we've already talked about it, and perhaps how people go about, um, I suppose, working out whether they have got an issue and what to do about it, apart from coming to see you, of course.
Yeah, so it's really multifactorial. You touched on the first and foremost, and it's mental health. So we have we don't have coping skills for stress. You know, they're not taught at school. We
You
obviously
got to learn
acquire
them.
them. We acquire them as we go through life. And so generally people will struggle with mental health for a period of time, and that has a direct implication on gut health, particularly around the intestinal lining and the turnover. And
So
so
just explain in sort of plain English, how does that happen? Like what's happening in our body to cause that?
yeah, so we have two nervous systems, or autonomic nervous systems, you know, that happen under our conscious awareness. So that's you probably heard of the fight, flight, or freeze
Yeah.
response. Yep. So when we're stressed, we're predominantly in that activation. And then the other side to that is the parasympathetic, which is the rest and digest. And what we're seeing too much of, and predominantly what people live in, is the fight, flight, or freeze. They're constantly seeking, they're constantly doing, they're doing, they're doing. Their to-do list is never ending, and they're trying to fit more in. And so they're so busy. And I think we get tied up. We just think that's normal because everyone else is busy. They're hustling, right? It's the hustle culture, hustling.
Mm.
So hustling is the fight, flight, or freeze. And what happens is the repair work doesn't get done because the body needs to switch into parasympathetic nervous system for the repair work to take place. And that repairs the intestinal lining. Our intestinal lining turns over every 4 days. And if we're not getting adequate sleep, we're constantly stressed and we're really busy and hustling, that repair work's just not being done. And so this is what eventuates in leaky gut. You've probably heard of the term leaky gut that's
Yeah.
floated around in the media and through the natural healthcare professions. And essentially, that's the intestinal wall that hasn't got its integrity. It's not at its structural, its utmost in structural integrity.
Yeah.
It's got little, holes in it, so to speak, or little, small gaps between the junctions, between the cellular junctions. And so that then allows in things that shouldn't normally enter our insides, essentially. So our intestinal lining protects us from the outside world. And so these things leak in. And what that invokes is an immune response. And the immune system gets, hypervigilant, it gets active, and it goes into overdrive. And essentially what it's doing is creating this inflammatory effect. And we then obviously produce all the byproducts and end products of the inflammation cascade, which, are quite toxic, that we need to eliminate. And
So am I right in saying it's not always going to show up as, say, feeling sick or feeling bloated or feeling unwell? It's like you say, it could be directly just impacting their mental health, and they don't realize that they're creating a couple of issues at once here.
Yeah, or it could show up as constipation or diarrhea. That's,
Right.
a telltale sign that either
Yeah.
people have got too much inflammation and everything's going fast forward, or it's, the body's, the metabolism's so down-regulated,
Yeah.
things aren't moving through.
And so
Uh,
nothing to do with the food. Well, it
uh,
could
uh,
have, but let's
it,
just say that
yeah.
like it's not necessarily the food that they're eating. It's because of the constant stress that they're putting their body
Correct,
through.
correct. And the light signals, getting incorrect light signals. So, like the serotonin that's produced from our gut bacteria, that is responsible for helping peristalsis, which is the movement of the feces through the
Okay.
intestinal tract. So if we're not producing enough serotonin, we don't have that movement. We're not getting out the toxins of our body. Our body
Right.
just is loaded with toxins, and then we start to feel fatigued. We've got no energy. We're
Yeah.
tired all the time, and then we eat more sugar. We're looking for
Yeah.
caffeine, and yeah. So it's Yeah, so but mental health can be a telltale sign. So people will feel their gut doesn't feel right. They will feel queasy
Yeah.
in the gut. That
Mm.
nauseate. They could feel nauseated. Just not hungry. Just not hungry is a good sign. Well, not a good. It's a telltale sign that the
Yeah.
person's in fight or flight when they're not hungry,
Yeah.
because our digestive system's turned off. It's switched off, and so if someone comes to you and say, "Look, I'm never hungry. I don't feel hungry," then they're probably just too busy, or they've been so busy for a period of time that their body has lost its ability to switch to the parasympathetic. We call it, it's lost. They've lost their vagal tone, which is the vagus nerve, which controls, regulates the parasympathetic nervous system. So ways in which you can stimulate the vagal tone is like, splashing cold water on your face, by laughing, by singing, jovial things, because
Okay.
jovial things relax us. So
Yeah.
if people are struggling with digestion, then obviously doing something to relax them, which could be listening to a comedy podcast, or watching some comedy or something lighthearted, just that they need to relax more. So so I think a lot of our poor gut health is tied to not only the food we eat, the fact that we're not eating, as you say, nutritionally dense food, fibrous foods. You mentioned at the start, we're not eating
Mm.
enough fibrous foods, and we are too stressed, and we're also that light environment we don't have right. We're constantly inside and not
Mm.
spending enough time outside.
So is it a process to determine that, or is it like, are there certain blood tests or certain endoscopy tests or something? Gastro, I was going to say gastro, economical, gastrointestinal type tests that can be done to determine that, or is that kind of like a last resort, or is there something like, oh no, we can see that something's out of balance here?
Yeah, so there is. You can do the stool test. So there's different types of stool testing you can get
Okay.
done. So you can certainly, like the basic doctor one, the one you do with your GP, will test for parasites, will test for bacterial overgrowth, and
Yeah.
and obviously blood in the stool and things like that. So they're testing, I guess, that more severe, more red flag side of things.
Yes.
But then if you see a naturopath or a nutritionist, then they're more looking for the bacterial balance. I mean, obviously that they will pick up on red flags as well,
Mm.
but they're looking for optimal health, whereas the GP is just wanting to keep you alive. They're
Yeah.
not looking to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah, yeah.
Um, This is really great information. I'm just conscious of the time, so I've got another appointment coming up in a few minutes. But I want to talk to you about supplements. I mean, we can do another recording if we need to. But supplements. What's your view on supplements? What's like? Do they serve a part in people's lives? Should they not be having them because they should be getting all the nutrients from their food? What's your stance?
I think that people are wasting a lot of money because they're seeing an influencer taking a supplement that might have amazing skin, and they're thinking, I want that skin that influencer has. And so
Yeah.
therefore they'll take all the collagen and all the, the vitamin A, vitamin E, and all that vitamin D and everything, associated with good skin. And so I think unless it's indicated that you're deficient, you can get what we need. And ultimately it's best served from food, because food has it in the right amounts for us to absorb well, whereas
Mm.
our supplements contain large amounts,
Yeah.
which we've never seen we can't get it from eating food, like we just, and
Yeah.
so
It's
a
like it's
lot of,
trying to be a shortcut, isn't it?
yes, a shortcut, and we're wasting a lot of money because it's just going out through our urine and feces. So
Mm.
people are wasting a lot of money. I think the best thing is if it's indicated that you are deficient in something, and and that's known, then yes, supplementation can be helped, because it will get you up to speed a bit quicker. But ultimately, a well-balanced diet and
Mm.
looking after your mental health and doing everything we've spoken about in terms of holistic health, doing your sleep and your stress management, and uh, you're getting outdoors, and
Mm.
connecting with people, and all these things. So if you and then eating a well balanced diet, as you mentioned, lots of vegetables, and making sure you're getting your protein, then you don't need supplementation. I think people waste a lot of money on it.
So maybe you can correct me on this then. I'll tell you one of the things that I do because of what we were talking about earlier with we just don't know the nutritional value in the food that we buy. Like an
Yeah,
apple's
yeah,
an
yeah,
apple. It's like, oh,
yeah,
okay, this one's been in storage for two
yeah,
years. This
yeah.
one has just come off the tree. They look exactly the same. Oh, I don't know. And so what I do is I take a multivitamin as an insurance policy because I don't know what the nutritional value is in the food because currently we don't have a label that says, hey, this is 100% or this is 50% or this is 5%. And now obviously I know that I'm just weighing out anything that I don't need. But like just your personal perspective or professional perspective, do you think is
No,
that a sensible approach?
absolutely. So a multi doesn't contain excessive amounts of anything. It's just got a
Yeah.
bit of everything. So
Yeah.
it's in smaller ratios that we can digest more of it and assimilate more of it. And as you said, as a backup, it's perfect. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I think what you're doing is great. And there's been some really good studies done on people that have taken multivitamins in terms of longevity and overall reducing all-cause mortality. So yeah, you're doing the right. You're doing a good thing. I think it's just when people people are jumping around and just because this influencer does this, I'm going to do that.
Oh,
Like,
we've got
yeah,
like a big part of the audience here is in the US, so they won't get this, but we have these big chains here called Chemist Warehouse, and you walk down those. It's kind of like the Bunnings or the what do they have over there, like Hardware House or something they have in the US, the equivalent
yeah,
Costco,
Costco, yeah,
and they have aisles and aisles, floor to ceiling
yeah,
of just
yeah,
supplements, and it's like what do I take? And you say, all
yeah,
right, well, I'll take this, and this, and this. And I'm like, what are you doing?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
you're just consuming all this stuff, paying a
yeah,
fortune
yeah.
for everything. And yeah, you really don't need it.
No,
I want to ask you one more. I want to talk about stress, but we might do maybe in the
yeah,
future, we'll do another call just
yeah,
on stress because we've
yeah,
talked about mental
yeah.
health and I'd be interested to hear your strategies and so forth around that. I wanted to ask you, what is the best advice you've ever received?
It's simple, just like you like it. It's to be me. And that's ultimately where I've ended up. Like it's when I've been trying to be someone else or trying to think I need to be someone else. And that has always led me to, I guess, self-sabotage and be a
Yeah,
harsh critic on myself. And
yeah,
once I realized that if I just accept who I am and then just focus on me being better than what I was yesterday,
yeah,
I've,
exactly what I was saying.
yeah, yeah. So I think that's probably where I've arrived in terms of the best advice is, and that's where I stand out is when I'm me because there's no other me on this earth. So if I can be
Yeah,
me,
yeah,
then
well
I'm
said.
differentiated.
I just posted it about an hour or so before we hit record on this, how to be authentically you.
Yeah, fantastic.
Because you
Yeah,
see it all the time.
yeah,
Stop trying to be someone else.
yeah,
Just be the best version of
yeah,
you and just
yeah.
try and be better each and every day.
Correct.
This has been awesome. I mean, that time has flown by so quickly. I mean, you work in a space that I'm so passionate about. And to be honest, um, in my area, I have not come across, how can I say this without getting myself into trouble, a dietitian or a nutritionist that I'd be prepared to work with. It's a really bad indictment on the industry. Having said that, it's the same in the space I work in with health and health, fitness, wellness, and so forth. I couldn't recommend anyone to anyone else other than myself because there's so many donkeys around. And that's really sad. So if people want to get in touch with you, we can see your contact details up there over your left shoulder, right of screen. Um, is that the best way to get hold of you?
Absolutely, yeah. My email or website, you'll be able to get direct hold of it. And look up me and my wellness. Just Google it. You'll find I'm on all socials, so you'll be able to connect with me on one of the social channels.
Yeah, this has been awesome. I mean, I think like we started this with saying, like when we started all those years ago, it was about, say, fitness or it was about diet and that kind of stuff. It's so not about that. And where I'm doing most of my work with clients now, it's around their headspace. And that's really interesting that you're doing the same thing. So it's been an honor to have you on the show. I know that we'll have you on again because we could talk for hours here. Thanks so much for coming today. I'm sure you've added a heap of value to our audience around the globe.
Thank you so much, Rob, and thank you, listeners, for tuning in. And I look forward to coming back and having a chat around stress. I'd really appreciate that
Yeah,
conversation because I
terrific.
think it's worth having.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks a lot, Anthony.
Thank you, Rob.